You're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup and Confident Women Ireland's YouTube channel with me, Roisin the Cleric. I'm here outside Khan's Bookshop here in James's Street in Kilkenny. Khan Kiley, who is the proprietor of Khan's Bookshop, has the largest selection of dyslexia books here in Ireland. So we've done an awful lot on the two channels to discuss and talk about dyslexia, autism and neurodivergence and neurodiversity. So we're going in to have a look and talk to Khan about all her amazing, wonderful books on dyslexia. So, as I said in my intro, I'm here with Khan Kiley, the owner of Khan's Bookshop, Ireland's largest selection of dyslexic books, which is a goldmine. And as you can see behind me, look at dyslexia-assisted learning. So, Khan, for our audience who know you anyway already on all the channels, but just tell our audience who you are, what you do, and why you're so passionate about dyslexia.
Okay, my name is Khan Kiley, and I own KhansBooks in James's Street in Kilkenny. But I'm actually dyslexic myself, and my family has a lot of dyslexia in it, so it does. And I see the strengths and weaknesses of dyslexia very much, so I do. But this is why I actually didn't learn to read properly until I was about 12 years of age, and that is why I have always been so interested in promoting reading. And we also have an early reading section in Khans, so that we would encourage children to read from a very young age. And our reading selection is extremely good value, like €1 or €2. We make it accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
So we do. Now, our dyslexia section is actually 3 bays, and it is a mix of books such as information books, how to identify and help with dyslexia. And I absolutely love this series of LDA books because of the way it's laid out. What I love about this book is it's very simply laid out. It's laid out in bullet points, and it's also laid out in layman's language. However, we all need to go in and deal with a school or deal with a situation when we have dyslexic children or dyslexic adults, and this book actually gives you the terminology and the correct phrases and the checklists and everything that you need to empower you to deal with a situation and to make decisions about your children.
And it also helps with coping skills as well, and giving children confidence in these books. It really does install that self-confidence to confidently perform in school.
That's correct, Roisin, and confidence is one of the biggest things in life. It has been said to me many times that if dyslexia children overcome their issues with confidence, they go on today to become enormously successful, because they're no snowflakes, lads. I can tell you that much. They've had the corners knocked off them.
I'm dyslexic myself, so yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah. So you are right about the confidence being absolutely fundamental.
In that, and that's what you really give that. That's what I really admire about you. One of the things I admire about you, I admire lots of things about you, but this is how passionate and the purpose in really helping children with dyslexia.
And adults as well.
Yeah. So tell us about the books.
Right. What we're also going to talk about then is we're going to talk about Barrington Stoke. Right. Barrington Stoke is a publisher in the UK that actually publishes books, dyslexia-friendly books. Now, what I love about these books is they pick very well-known authors. Now, today I have in my hand Julia Donaldson, very well-known author of The Gruffalo, probably the best-known children's author of all time. Right? And then, of course, the other one is Michael Morpurgo. Now, what I like about these books is, this book has cream paper in it. That's very important for the layer, as I call it, right? They have a special dyslexia font that they've actually developed themselves, and also they use all of the essential words. So they do the to, the from, the where, the how, that dyslexic children really struggle with because they can't visualize them, but they're extremely important. And also the layout of the page, so the words are never overcrowded on the page. So to stop dyslexic children from getting overwhelmed, which is a big part.
And tell us about the words with children or adults with dyslexia. The words are important because you also said in our previous interviews, and it really, really struck a chord with me, that dyslexia has a speech and language issue as well. And that's part of the words, being able to pronounce words and understand words.
Now, a lot of times when children, for instance, have a stammer, or this was certainly in my own case, and I always mispronounced words. So I did, and I had a stammer as well. I think it's an early indicator. I would certainly be on the alert. I think it's extremely important. So it is. But when we're discussing the words, it's the fars, the whens, the how, the where. They're often referred to as tricky words as well. That's another phrase for them. Dyslexic children struggle with them because how do you describe the word far? How do you describe the word from? So there is, of course, the Deutsche alphabet, which is 200 Deutsche words, which is the 230 words, which is 75% of the English language.
What is the Deutsche language?
It's basically a list of words.
Right.
I call it alphabet. I could actually incorrect there. It's actually words, right? It's basically a list of 230 words that is 75% of the English language.
I never knew that.
And it's taught it's far, when, where. Now, a lot of dyslexic children are taught these words. They're taught these words in lists. However, to be really successful, they have to be taught in sentences so they can visualize them. And that would make an enormous difference.
Because dyslexia, children and adults, or anyone living with dyslexia, are very visual learners, and and even their language would be visual words.
A lot
and
of them
descriptive
are
words.
very visual. And now this is another book, another Barrington Stoke book, different series. And this is the For You to Reads. And I'm a really big fan of these. And the author we picked today is Michael Morpurgo, who is a very, very well-known author and has written over 200 children's books. And again, you can see there's a picture in it, you can see the lovely print in it, and you can see the lovely page. So it is.
Can you just tell us about the font, why the font's important?
Now, the font is extremely important because of, first of all, to do with the glare that we were discussing about, and second of all, it's the way it's spaced out as well, and it's slightly darker in colour. Now, it is a special font that Barrington Stoke developed themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
And the spacing. Why is it important about the spacing?
Because to make sure there's not too many words on the page to overwhelm the children. And overwhelming is a huge issue in dyslexia.
And while we're on the subject of wordings, I'll get it for you. You were telling me that there's rulers. And I just said before we came on air, my son's here, I always use a ruler at home when I'm reading or doing anything important. And I didn't realise they had dyslexia rulers.
Now, I am an absolute lover of these, okay? We sell them in packs and we sell them in Bookshop for €3 each. And now, some colours will suit children better. And this one consists of the top 10 colours. Right, okay? And what I find about them is you can actually put them, I'll just get you an example of one that's out, right? Okay, here's a blue one, right? They come with a little covering, so they do just to protect them. And if you just want to read one sentence, you put up the first bit. And then if you want to read a paragraph, you can put it up here. And they're absolutely brilliant. I couldn't recommend them enough. So they are. I found them terrific myself.
Yeah, everything is coming really, really. I'm a visual, as you know, I'm very visual. So even when you're speaking, I'm internalizing everything visually in my brain. And that's an awful lot of, like, anyone living with dyslexia, they don't realize that that's what they're actually doing.
Yeah, it's exactly. And as you just said, and if you can capture that visualization, you'll do very well. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you will. And we also today wanted to speak about, we'll just give a little bit of mention maybe on dyspraxia, will we? Yeah. And we just wanted to speak about dyspraxia. Now, I actually also have dyspraxia as well as dyslexia. And again, there's another book from the LDA company. So it is, and it is understanding and supporting children with dyspraxia. Now, dyspraxia is really more to do with physical.
Right, so tell us about that.
Well, what would I say about it? My coordination would be poor, so it would. I wouldn't be very good at playing games, so I wouldn't. And it also tend to be very disorganized, so you do. and you tend to be quite highly stressed sometimes, but it is mainly coordination based, so it is. Now, again, you can do a lot to improve it. So you can hop on one foot, you can do skipping, you can learn to play a game. I mean, you can learn to play a game. It's a lot harder than everything else. Dancing is very good for it. I find it's general exercise, and it does make a huge difference.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, once children understand, what the signs are, that helps them understand why they are what they do, how they are, and their behaviors and their actions and reactions to, even in the school, being stressed, because it is very stressful for children when they're going to school and they're doing homework. And as you said in the book, that how to understand what the teachers are telling them to do for homework, because they might not understand the teacher's description of what to do for homework.
Yeah, no, and it is. And now there's ways around that, I have to say. Like, I would always think of somebody just teacher taking a photograph on her phone and just sending it to the parent on WhatsApp, just to make sure, or writing down the homework. Is also very good, whereby the child gets a list Monday to Thursday of what they have to do. And if there's a meltdown someday doing homework, well, then you can leave it till the following day. I am a believer in homework, but not too much.
Not too much.
I'm a great believer in keeping it simple.
Yeah.
I don't think more than 20 minutes.
Not overload of homework.
Yeah, I just don't think, particularly in primary school, I wouldn't be a big favour. I would try and get any dyslexic child to read for 10 minutes. Even if a parent reads one page and you read the other, I think it's hugely
There's
important.
another good thing that you came on, you mentioned in other videos, and we'll be putting the other videos in the description box below of Khan. And Khan is the psychology of reading. You mentioned that before.
The psychology of reading is absolutely massive. And I mean, you mentioned it on one of these, on either the radio program or on the YouTube channel that we did. You mentioned about the amount of people in the UK that were actually in prison who couldn't read or write. So absolutely, it's reading is so much more than just reading. It's actually the fundamentals of confidence. So it is, and being actually able to cope and manage in life, and that's why it's so important.
And also, reading gets you sort of into the imaginary world of visualization.
Oh, hugely, it gets you in. And if you do learn to read like I did, like I'm a great woman for reading murder and crime, I'm always reading it, right? Okay, I'm completely fascinated by it, right? And what I would say is that it does help me a lot as well, because I can recall the words, and I do have an excellent memory, and it does help me. And when I was in secondary school, I read a newspaper every single day at lunchtime, and it retained all those words for me.
Really?
And that was a fantastic training, 10-15 minutes every day.
That's really good tip.
I was of all the things I ever did to help myself in life, that was my number one.
And also about coping skills is very important in understanding coping with the signs and the symptoms and the stress and anxiety of dyslexia.
Coping skills are enormously important, so they are. Now, a lot of dyslexics do mask the dyslexia, and sometimes it's discovered later on in life because of this. But they have also developed very good coping skills, so they have. But what I would say about coping skills is, once we start dealing with the issues, right? Once we start dealing, first of all, we have to recognise the problem. Then we have to get the child assessed, so that we know what area we're in. Then we have to look at whether the child will give up Irish or not. I actually have found that extremely good for me, but that's not for every child, right? And then we have to decide how we're going to handle it and how we're going to manage it. But the most important thing is, if you can practice your reading 5 minutes a day, and you will see an enormous benefit.
Is there any dyslexia books for adults?
There is dyslexia books for adults, and there's dyslexia books for teenagers as well.
Right.
So they're actually over here. Now, what I absolutely love is this series, which teenagers and adults buy from us. So they do. And they are the classics. See the lovely covers?
Oh, Little Woman.
Yeah, Little Woman.
Pride and
Prejudice. And Wuthering Heights. I have to say these are my favourite books. So they are.
Right, and so they are designed for dyslexia.
Yeah, and there's also Animal Farm as well. But I'm just saying, isn't that so clever?
Yes.
So it is. So you can get to read these as well. So they are, and again, if you want to improve your dyslexia, no matter what age you are, if you read, it doesn't matter. If you even set yourself to read a complete book. Like there are people who just never have had the opportunity to read book. These books weren't around. Like these books, I think, are about 25 years old since the company started. The company has actually been sold lately. But what I'm saying to you is, like, it's a wonderful way to start.
Yeah.
So it is.
That's brilliant.
And lovely bright covers and everything.
Because dyslexia, anyone with dyslexia, they use colours an awful lot.
They use colours, so they do, but dyslexics have, like, because they have shortfalls, they have also developed, like, you'll find a lot of the time their memory is excellent. Their working memory is excellent. They have developed other strengths, exactly, and talents, and you will often find that about them.
And I don't think it's sort of highlighted enough the skills, the strengths, the attributes and talents of people living with dyslexia. It always seems to be the negative side of the narrative instead of focusing on the strengths.
I am so glad, Roisin, that you've mentioned that because I am so tired of all this negativity, right? We're talking about the issue today. We're talking about the strengths and the weaknesses, and we're also going to deal with, and we're also talking about what helps.
Yes.
Because it is so, so important. Now, another thing that I'm going to mention here today that I find wonderful, and believe me, I don't recommend anything, and yes, I've used it personally or have a personal experience. It's one of my principles in life. Is the TTRS, the touch typing.
Yes, tell us about that.
Now, that is the most fantastic program, right? It is 31. It is 31 modules, and it's in 24 lessons.
Wow!
Right? And it also deals with, and the child has to do it themselves, and they can really do it from 3rd, 4th class up. I really would be encouraging to do it as young as they can.
So it also helps with their typing skills as well at a young age.
It helps with their typing skills. It gives them wonderful confidence. It helps with their literacy as well. And it's the child doing the work. It's not the adult doing the work, so they're able to do it on their own.
And tell us about that, isn't it? Because with people with dyslexia, the technology is important because it's easier to type it out than putting it from head to hand to paper and write it out.
If a child is granted assistive technology, it doesn't automatically mean that they're granted to use it for their exams. They have to reapply. Now, that is a very, very big issue. And I really do wish the department would deal with that. Cut out the paperwork. Give the child, once the child is given assistive technology, that is the end of it. And that goes right through until they're finished in university. But what they would say about it, and what we would say from personal experience using the TTRS, is the writing is another function. And how I'm putting it in layman's terms is the information when you're doing your exams between your head and what you want to say and write it down, bits get lost on the way.
Yeah.
Whereas when they're typing, that doesn't seem to happen. And it is it's a vital tool, and they have it going on into 3rd level, because a lot of dyslexic children will be able to get into university and into college because of the DARE scheme.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but they have to be equipped. And one of the ways to equip our children is making sure that they are able to type, and using the TTRS. I couldn't recommend it enough.
Could you just tell our audience what is the DARE scheme here in Ireland?
Okay, the DARE scheme is basically where it's where the department recognises that you have learning issues, and therefore they make accommodations for them. There is a percentage of places kept back in most courses, right? Now, between 5 and 10%, okay, in most college. That applies to universities, colleges, all 3rd level, right? Now, the reason why it's so beneficial is, say your course was 400 points.
Yes.
If you're dyslexic and you got 400 points, you automatically get in. So you're not competing. Oh. You're competing with people who have less points. So say you got 360 points, you'd have a chance of getting in under the DARE scheme if you had learning issues and the department had recognised those and it's wonderful, and you get help in third level as well. So they do. They help you with notes, and they have an officer in all the colleges to help you. You get great help in third level. So you do, because they really want you to succeed.
Yes, and we've talked before about people who have dyslexia, on all the dyspraxia and dyscalculia. What we're going to talk about, I probably pronounced that wrong again, and in a little while, is very creative.
Oh, they're extremely creative. Look at the amount of actors, musicians. They're extremely creative, so they are, because they think differently. They really think outside the box, so they do. And they look at life in a kind of they look at life at an angle. That's how I would best describe it. And a lot of them have kind of quirky sense of humour as well. And they come out with kind of funny descriptions, but very accurate. And they've a very good sixth sense of people.
Yes.
Very good understanding of that. So they have, I think they almost are born with an extra sense of people, because they live on the edge a little bit.
Yeah.
So I do.
And also to explain to our audience, you've mentioned this before, and it's just gone off my head. Oh, that you mentioned before that anyone with dyslexia or learning difficulties or issues, they're not snowflakes, and that they don't care what other people think.
For those who get beyond, for those who've learned to cope, and for those who have learned to use their strengths, absolutely, if you can get over these issues, absolutely brilliant. So they are. And in today's world in particular, they're used to it.
Yeah.
They are used to dealing with all of the issues. So they're used to disappointment, they're used to not being picked for things, they're actually well used to things. They're used to not being top of the class, so they're used to it all. And of course, they develop differently. And I think by the time they come to third level, if they've had an okay experience in secondary school and their reading and writing has come on, which a lot of it does come on, and I would actually have seen it in my own household, and I would certainly attribute a lot of that to both reading and to the TTR scheme. So I would. You can see their confidence rising, and they're very good negotiators and they're very good at communications.
Yeah,
so they are
very good.
Yeah.
And just before we go on to dyscalculia, even the writing is different, isn't it? Anyone with learning difficulties, their writing is different.
Yeah. And sometimes you'd even notice, sometimes, I can see it in myself, sometimes the way I hold a pen is still not great, right? And I mean, I would love if the typing had been around in my time when I did my Leaving Cert. But I would like to make one comment. When I did my Leaving Cert in 1989, we were given extra time.
Right.
And I would love to see that being brought in.
Yeah.
Again, by the department.
Yeah. I know in third level institutions that the extra time is given for exams.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, because I was left-handed, I remember in school I was changed to right-handed, so I used to have to spend 1 hour every night at the dining room table practicing my writing.
Yeah. I know, well, thank God that, because a good lot of left-handed, not all, but a good lot of them also have dyslexia as well. So it's very important. So it is. And I had a granduncle, and he had a very severe stammer. And I didn't really know much about my granduncle. And one day he saw me doing my homework and writing with my left hand. He couldn't believe it.
Right.
He had seen it all.
Yeah, so he knew exactly.
He knew, yeah.
And you know, you talk about speech impediment. I had a very, very severe cleft palate. And I had no nose, no mouth, no palate, nothing, just a big hole. And so, you know, sometimes I think my brain knows the word, but I can't get that communication to my tongue. But however, it also matches up with the dyslexia that you spoke about. And when I heard that, I went, wow. And it was like a relief for me.
And a lot of people do find it a relief.
Yeah.
Once they're diagnosed, they realise that this is what it is. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just our brains are formed a bit differently.
Yeah.
But as I just said, that's what, and I do think it's a big relief. And then you can start to deal with it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I know what that is. I know why that is happening to me. So you know what? It's something that has added to my strength.
Now, I would also say that in the beginning, when you start dealing with it, and maybe child's getting help in school, or they have their own private tutor or whatever, or they go to dyslexic workshops or whatever, the progress is slow.
Yes.
It does take time, so it does, and you have to be patient. But believe me, you will see the results.
be patient with yourself as the child or the adult, and know yourself and understand yourself. Understand, just. I think most of all is concentrate on your strengths and manage your weaknesses.
Exactly, and if you can discover what the child is good at, to encourage that as well. A lot of them are very good at acting. Some of them are actually extremely good at sport.
Yeah.
The ones who don't have dyspraxia some of them are extremely good at sport, and some of them are extremely, they really do stand out at certain things. Some of them are extremely good at maths.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only giving examples.
Yeah, and even just to create art and creativity,
Absolutely.
everything to do
Music,
with creative.
anything to do.
Yeah.
Anything to do with like that. So it's
Even
all
video editing or visual, anything visual.
Yeah. And we live in a world today that's very visual, which is a huge advantage. So I think it's very important to celebrate the good things as well.
And I think going forward, maybe you'll help and join us on the Irish Political Roundup and on the Competent Women Ireland and on the business programme that's going to be launched soon, that you'll help us really promote the strengths and the wonderful creative talents, skills and attributes of people living with learning difficulties.
Oh, I'd be very honoured to do that, Roisin. Thank you very much.
So let's now go on to Dyscalculia. I cannot pronounce that.
I pronounce it as Dyscalculia.
Dyscalculia.
No. Yeah, I'm always a little bit hairy on the pronunciation. So we won't, yeah. Now there's a lot less written on Dyscalculia.
Yes, I have it.
Yeah, I would say I definitely have it, but there is a lot less. Now, I would also think that the use of calculators in secondary schools has done wonders for children with dyscalculia.
But I still don't know how to put in figures, whether it's 250 or 2, or if it's 1,000, or if it's, I still have that problem. Where to put the decimal and everything.
But if you get to start using your calculator early on,
right,
you get to know that.
Right.
Now, I was speaking to somebody in the world of education, and they were saying that the new maths curriculum, I don't know how true this is, that they're recommending use of calculators, I think, from 4th class on. Now, Now, I would be very keen that children are using calculators, because what I was told, when you go into secondary school is extremely academic in Ireland. They actually expect the children to be able to use their calculators. And for children, some children who have really struggled at maths can actually do quite well in secondary school once they get the handle of the calculator. So I would be very keen that they roll out the use of calculators in 5th and 6th class, scientific calculators, so when they go into secondary school they're well able to use them.
And that there again comes back to the coping skills.
It's just giving them all a chance. It would give them those 2 to 3 years. The dyslexic children sometimes a bit slower on the pick up, and then when they pick it up they really get it.
So it's the coping strategies that is so important,
rather than leaving them going into secondary school unable to use it. Now, what I did myself was, when somebody had told me about this calculator teacher I'd spoken to, we actually the summer before we went into first year, what I did with one of my children was I actually got them, we looked up a YouTube video on how to use scientific calculator, and we practiced. I don't think it was brilliant, but I think it was a help. I think anything like that, but I would seriously be encouraging the roll out of it in primary school, just so that when they go into secondary school.
So tell us about the book.
Right, these are, I can't recommend this series of books enough. So they are by Learning 123. So they are. Now, I've used them and they're absolutely brilliant. Right, first of all, we have The Power of Two, which is actually a maths book, and it's something equivalent to Toe by Toe, but much easier for a parent to use than Toe by Toe, which would be the English version of this. And basically what it does is it helps you with it explains figures to you, and it helps you get figures into your head. It's an absolutely brilliant program, and it's got a grid system, and you tick it off and you keep asking and you go through it. It's extremely well laid out, very easy to use. I couldn't recommend it enough. And they also have a plus one, which is another Power 2 and plus one. And plus one is actually the first part of the introduction series, and it's absolutely excellent. And anybody can use them. A teacher, an SNA, a parent, a guardian, anybody, grandparent, anybody can use these books. They're so well put together. They also have one called Perform with Time. So they do, which we're actually out of stock of but which is excellent. It's all about time, about learning the time. Some children with dyscalculia struggle severely with learning the time, and also getting time into their heads, which for me is still a very big issue. So it is. And then we also have this one, Perform with Times Tables, which is all about learning the times tables. Now what I find with learning times tables is they don't really understand some children when they learn where they actually come from.
Yeah.
They actually haven't got the basic understanding. Now I'm a great believer in getting out the pegboard and counting out the 7s and the 8s. I mean, it's hard work, but explaining to somebody where it comes from is hugely important.
And that again comes down back to the coping strategy.
To coping, and to use and to keep at it and at it and at it and at it. It's going to take a bit longer. Be patient, but believe me, they will get there.
And patience is the key.
Oh, patience and kindness and understanding.
And that is the key, and not being so hard on ourselves or for the children, to tell children, it's okay, don't be hard on yourself, don't beat yourself up, don't let your self-esteem go down. You know, you have strengths. You have many strengths that people who don't have dyslexia have. So it balances itself out.
It balances. That's a very good description, so it is. Now there's also, and again with maths, as I said, it's like practicing as well. But if you can get a handle on using the computer, on using the calculator, going into secondary school, it'll be a huge advantage to you.
Well, Khan, thank you so much. You've taken up so much of your time to actually come and support this and really get this message out there. Now, you have a physical bookshop here in Kilkenny, in James Street here in Kilkenny. Can you tell our audience, you also have an online...
we also have an online business as well.
Yeah.
There's just one area we didn't really mention today, which is actually mind mapping.
Khan, tell us about mind mapping. I use mind maps all the time about everything. Even if I'm doing a radio program, I would write out the purpose, the why, and then I would do the clock, and then I would do the times, and then I would do mind maps about everything. I'm a mind map person, and that is brilliant.
I think the mind map is absolutely brilliant, because what it's doing is it's organising your brain.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time with dyslexia, it's kind of all over. It's a bit jumbled up there sometimes. A lot of the time, to be honest with you. But if you actually lay it out exactly what you said, and you start with the major thing, and then you use
I have one, and then I have it like, it's like there's then there's mind maps for mind maps for mind maps,
and it stops you from forgetting things as well, because of course it's excellent for dyslexia, because a lot of them have such a good long-term memory that they remember the mind mapping. It's very good for studying as well. You know, if they're trying to maybe learn their science homework, or they're trying to do like if you're doing I mean, I see it being used with science quite a bit, right? Because we use it for science quite a lot in our household, because what we do is we would take the main chapter, say maybe it's on ecology or something, and then we write out all the points, and then we also write out the definitions on it as well, which are excellent. And sometimes if we didn't do the mind mapping, we'd forget about the definitions. And the definitions actually, when you're doing science, are extremely important. So they are for your junior cert. Like, if you know your definitions, I reckon you can pass your science. I'm just giving you an example of how I was using it the other day, doing science homework. I found it excellent.
And then that's how I got through my exams, was mind maps. And as you said, the memory. What I did is I had this memory of drawing out the mind map before I answered the question. And then I used to put keywords in the mind map, and then the mind map. And I remember my media law lecturer, she said, in an exam, if you do mind maps, you will not lose marks if you don't answer a question. They'll go to your notes, and if you have it in a mind map, you get a mark, so you don't fail that question.
See, it's excellent. So it is. And it also, as I said, gets thoughts down on paper. So it does, and it stops you from forgetting things. It's now, I would personally be one of these who don't use it enough.
I use it all the time, and every day.
And anytime I use it, I always go, God, it's so good. But I do need to use it more, and really it should be part of my daily routine.
And lists.
Oh, lists. Oh, yeah, I'm a great woman for the lists. The lists are endless, so they are, and I do tick them off. But the lists are endless, but they're great as well.
And reminders on your phone, on
absolutely,
like that.
Like we have so much technology now, and you know what, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful, and we need to embrace technology, And as I just said, the same with calculator, the same with everything. We need to embrace it and realise that they're there, that can help our children greatly doing their exams. And I mean that, so and everything is an addition.
Well, I'm always in awe speaking to you. Your enthusiasm, your absolute purpose and intention, and your objective into what you do, why you do what you do. And I think, for me, I just think you're a great leader here in Ireland in dyslexia, but also in books and getting children reading. And there isn't anything that you don't know about a book or an author, you find out.
Oh yeah, well I'm always trying to update my information, so yeah. But I'm very keen with the reading that we start at a very young age.
Yeah.
I always love when we sell our board books in cans. I always love to see the board books going into the mouth, because reading is also it's multi-sensory really a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I love to see them even handing books, looking at books, just having books. Yeah. And I think it's also something we didn't mention today, but I think we should mention. I actually do think that the libraries in Ireland do a wonderful job as well.
Yeah.
They really do give a wonderful service to the people of Ireland.
They do.
And I actually have to
Definitely.
say I'm a very big fan.
Yeah,
of
I
libraries.
am too. Yeah, I am.
And libraries facilitate, the fact that anybody can join a library, and they offer wonderful facilities, and also it means there can be a book in every child's house.
And another thing I really admire about you is you have a lot of discount books. That you have books from €2. They're affordable.
Oh,
they are there for anyone.
This is hugely important to me. We sell discount books. We start from €1 upwards, and we also do sell full price books, a percentage full price books in cans. But our reading section, €2, €3, €4, €4, €5, anybody can get. We sell a lot of picture flaps here for €3. Everybody can come in here and shop. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are. As I said, we sell our books from €1 upwards, and everybody is welcome.
And I think it's amazing as well that you have that online service, because anyone, especially for what you specialise in, the dyslexia and to the understanding children with literacy difficulties, they could be in Donegal, they could be in Mallinhead, Letterkenny, they can be down in Castletownbere, in Cork, all over the country, in Galway, Dublin, and they can actually access these books and just phone you up or email you and have you got this book in stock? What books would you advise?
And I would actually love to see more dyslexic sections in bookshops, and more early reading sections. I go into bookshops, of course I do. I go into bookshops all over the world, and I look at my section, and now there's a lot of work put into our section, a huge amount of work, because we also want it to be price available to everybody, and so there's an enormous amount of wheeling and dealing goes on. But I would like to see more bookshops rolling this out. I really would, and offering this to the community, because the future of bookshops in Ireland has to be, we must get the younger people reading and keep them reading, and let them learn the value of reading, which has actually never been more important, because reading is one of the few things that you can do. You can actually switch off your phones.
Do you know another thing, Karen, what we haven't discussed, but we'll touch on it briefly, and then we'll discuss on a later date, is you talk about reading. You talk about you having dyslexia and dyspraxia.
Yeah.
However, you're also a businesswoman. So people living with dyspraxia or dyslexia are very good entrepreneurs.
Oh, they're excellent entrepreneurs, because first of all, they see things. They see problems. They're very good problem solvers. So they are. And that's why and also because they're a bit quirky sometimes, they're not great at taking instruction from other people. So an awful lot of them are self-employed. Now, when I go to a trade show in the UK, I would walk into a room and I'd say, good lad of dyslexics here.
Right.
Yeah. I could nearly spot them.
How do you spot them? You just intuition?
Just by my intuition, and I've been to many trade shows, right? And I can just spot them. Now, I mightn't be always right, but I just say to myself, yeah, I think so. It's they're very good salespeople. God, it sounds anti the Arabs. And they also generally have a bit of a sense of humour, and generally they're kind of like an enigma, but yet they're very successful.
Is that where they don't care what other people think of them, and their determination and working to their strengths comes in?
Yeah. One of the most powerful things in life, and once you understand that, is not caring what people think of you. It is so important in life. And also, as you just said, their strengths where they are, and some of them have a very good natural understanding of business. They can also foresee trends, so they can very good at that, and they also, and I think that comes from the same kind of sixth sense we were talking about earlier. Yeah, and they realise they've been used to always having to work very hard to get anything they have to achieve.
And that creativity in overcoming obstacles.
Exactly.
And that's really important in business as well.
It's hugely important in business, hugely important in your personal life, hugely important in every part of life.
And it's overcoming those coping strategies, learning coping strategies that helps build up that self-confidence that then takes away the stress, the anxiety of understanding that you've dyslexia, and not seeing it as a deficit but seeing it as a strength, and really honing in on your strengths and managing the weaknesses.
Absolutely, that's right. Now I would also say that it's extremely important that for dyslexic, dyspraxic children, that it's extremely important that we as parents are very ambitious for our children. So, and I would be a great believer in that, and we must try and make our children reach their full potential, and we need to give them every opportunity. So I would be keener that they would be given every opportunity in mainstream school, and that they would do as well as they possibly can. But I do think they should be competing in the mainstream world, in the mainstream schooling world. But know how to use their calculator to benefit them, be able to get the assistive technology approved by the department, all of these things. And that's what I would be really in favour of, because a lot of dyslexics participate in life.
Yes, and that's what's really important, that participation, that social inclusion, and learning how to embrace society and how to reach their goals in life. Yeah. And that's really important. And overcoming chunk the big goals down to small, achievable goals.
Absolutely.
And like stepping stones, small, achievable goals. And learning. Okay, there's my friend Vicky Culver used to say when I used to be in the pony club in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. She used to take my horse she said, know what fences my pony was not like. And she said, your horse has to get over this fence. This is the difficulty the storm will have jumping this fence. So you, Roshan, have to figure out how you're going to get this horse from up here to over there, whether you go over, under or around, but you've got to get up there, the other side. And that's what we have to, and that is resilience.
Well, resilience is so important in life, absolutely. We learn resilience, we learn how to cope with disappointment, and we learn to deal with the good things in life as well.
There's lots of positives and strengths and attributes and skills and creativity around anyone, child, adult, teenager or adult living with any learning disability or anything like that. So it's time now for I'm delighted that we're going to collaborate along with Jeanette Delahunty in creating the strengths and the positives of dyslexia or learning disabilities, or any child, to give that confidence, that self-confidence, to embrace it and learn. It's not a deficit, it's actually a strength. Yeah, absolutely. Can Kylie of KhansBooks here in James Street, here in Kilkenny, in the heart of the city. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Competent Women Ireland and the Irish Political Roundup today.
I'm delighted. Thank you very much, Roisin.